Up to 85%. Those are categories of what it is from BBC Media Action. It was launched just last week, but it shows how the radio is the most important tool. And Jack mentioned when she was at the panel here, oh, we are sort of lost in what? I think maybe the bigger media houses, which are doing so very well in integrating and merging it. So one thing I would like to call upon all actors is understanding when we create our solutions, they don't have to be related to media. No, you don't have to be related to media or work in media for you to get to understand what media information literacy or the kind of media information literacy your audience and your target are sort of using. I think it is very important. We do a lot of research, a lot of survey in that area. Simple questions, simple calls. If you have a person on the ground in Lindi, how can you communicate with them? To sort of ask maybe the people on the ground, sometimes it is expensive, we look at all that. So some of the resources, guys, whatever you want to learn, I think 90% or 80% of what I've learned, I've acquired from the internet. I love learning. So there are resources there, like Izon Infano. You see, I've given examples of resources that has to do with anybody here. There is even a QR code if you're serious about it. But you are being told, harness the power of emotion and empathy. You need that when you communicate with people. How are you discussing on public platform? How are you communicating? It's very important. Embrace active participation, cultivate critical thinking. All these are important aspects and resources which are very important for a person to get to acquire. Yes, I know that we were sort of addressing, and I really wish to focus more on accessibility of people who are in the rural areas, but I would like to say that it doesn't go without saying that the digital component is very relevant, and it always brings us back to the audience that are majority accessing the information through digital media. There is other resources. Another one, I love the resources from Democracy Forward, especially for journalists. It was brilliant. So when you go there, and these resources I've shared, they are free. Anybody can access, everybody can learn. Let's be, I think the most call to action, I would say, let us be different from those who do not have an understanding of what media and information literacy is. We should not be lazy in going further and fact-checking. There are simple things, a lot of things you can validate online. So we need to learn how do credible sources look like? How can you be a better contributor? How can you help your family into making sure that you have a great component of people in what people get to understand? So yes, I'll finish this with a quote. Media literacy courses can give young people, guys, not just young, even the older. So young people the power to recognize the difference between entertainment, television, that is bad, and information they need to make good decisions. You cannot make, if you're making decisions and you are not well informed, I'll give an example. You might go to an interview and be asked a question in which you are not very well informed. It's not a bad thing to say, no, I think I need to follow up more on that, because information is changing every time. We cannot have every day have updated information. So yeah, my 20 minutes are up, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A hand of applause to Asha Binala. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take just 5 minutes and receive just two questions, comments directed to Asha. You'll say your name, your organization, company you represent directly to your question. It does not have to be a long story. Let's keep it short and sweet. Any questions, any comments anybody might have? Wonderful. Karibu sana.
Shukuru sana. My name is Gerard. I'm manager of innovation at Costech. It's not a question to you, but I requested that yet we are advocating on media and digital literacy, but the use of these online materials for product development is really missing. So that's why we do not get many innovations going to proven products, because people are not used to using technical information from the internet. For instance, the use of patent information, use of technological information to do reverse engineering. So my request is at least have a balance between the news and all the things and the social medias and the use of technical information in fostering our product development. Thanks very much.
Thank you. I think that's a very valid comment and contribution. Thank you very much. I endorse.
Do we have anybody else? Asha, I believe your presentation gets everybody to
There is a question.
right at the back. Right at the back. Okay.
It's more of a comment than it is a question. You know, when we speak of digital literacy, most of us think that we need to go sit down and learn. We need to go to different, say, YouTube channels where we have social media or digital media gurus who are teaching. But then, I believe the best way to learn and acquire digital literacy is by using the platforms themselves. That's how you'd acquire knowledge on these digital platforms, because we all know technology changes and it changes really fast. So for anybody to be literate in, say, digital media in a certain platform, they need to use the platform and adapt to the changes that are made by the platform. So it's as much as it's important to learn from others, it's also important to use these applications, to use these tools that are available online on our own, so that we can be literate on the said matters. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Viola. Maybe just a quick follow-up on that. It is easier, your approach you have explained is very easy for a person who started with a platform. Let's say today when a person uses X platform for the very first time, it's very different from a person who started using X platform since when it started. So a person, when you start with a platform, it's really easy for you to sort of gradually adapt what is important, what to leave aside, what to add on. But if it's a new user, I think we've reached a point where I remember there was a case where in Facebook, one of the users commented on the timeline and thinking that they were commenting in the private message, something which was not intended for public. So when you're a first-time user, I think it is very important. When you don't know the platform, you need to understand it first, as opposed to just getting in there. But otherwise, I love your contribution. That's very, very true. Thank you. I think the last question will be Sekela and Olivia.
Apparently, we are completely out of time. It would not be a question. Sechelela, it has to be a comment.
Okay.
Let's go for it. Then we have to be able to manage within the minutes. Let's go for it.
I think that is something that was talked about, collaboration.
Yeah.
If you're to think about collaboration and all the issues you've talked about in media literacy, how would you look at the space and say collaborating? Who are the partners to come together to make media literacy work in Tanzania?
Mine will be a solution-oriented without looking at who's created that solution. So when you do the mapping, we have solutions which when combined, they will create a very, very effective environment to solve challenges. But I have learned a lot of people who talk about collaboration. So I would say that if we get to use the word collaboration and mean it, it will be a game changer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A hand of applause to Asha Abinala, ladies and gentlemen. And I do believe that in case you do want access to those free resources she shared, feel free to have a conversation with her. Next, ladies and gentlemen, may I please ask to the stage Mr. Brian Paul Mnyampi, who is a technical lead at Studio 19 Limited. Makofi kwake tafadhali. Over to you.
Habari za mchana sijui. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm very excited to be here today to hear, first of all, this conversation that have been going on since morning. My name is Brian, again, from Studio 19. And I don't know if the slides will be there. But really, it's an honor to be in front of you today one to share the stories from Studio 19. So Studio 19, we are a media and production company in Dar es Salaam, and our mission has always been to use content to transform individual and communities. Really, that's actually what sparks our journey. And since when we actually started, we have been thinking around how do we use content to actually impact people. We live in actually a very interesting era, the era of technology and media. And the good thing about technology is that it actually breaks barriers that were very hard to break before. Right now, people can actually consume content, can actually speak with each other. Mtu ambaye yuko Mtwara, so a person who is in Mtwara right now can actually consume content, even from America. But the question is, are we taking advantage of these opportunities? Are we taking advantage of that? So, since when we started, the question that has been in our mind is, first of all, how do we create engaging content? Because content itself is not enough. Is how do we create engaging content? Second is, how do we get that content to the right people? Because just creating content is one thing, getting it to the people is a whole other thing. And then get them to engage with your content is a whole other thing itself. So really, that is the question that we've been asking ourselves a lot. How do we do that? And this is the subject of our deliberation at the office on the programs that we do, in the campaigns that we actually engage in, with the work that we work with other partners, is how do we do that? So I'll share a bit of the campaigns and some stories of the things that we have actually been doing. So we have worked with, this is one of the campaigns that we actually did, is work with UN women under the 16 days of activism, really trying to spearhead the conversation around violence to women and girls and how that affects their growth. This is another campaign that we did with the World Bank under the Urban Resilience Program, on which we were spearheading the conversation around recycling. And really, how do we, one, be conscious of the waste that we are producing, reuse, and recycle? So we actually created exhibitions at the National Museum. We also had communications to the public going around BRT buses. And really, we collaborated with artists, sculptors. People were able to engage with the exhibitions. And we even created the first zero waste conference. During the pandemic, we worked with the Ministry of Health, some organizations like Girl Effect, UNICEF, in actually spearheading the conversations around how do people protect themselves from the pandemic. How do they protect themselves and their loved ones as well? Over time, we've been working very closely with UNICEF in their agenda on child rights. This is one of their campaigns that they actually have. It's called Beating Campaign, on which we spearheaded the conversations around child marriage and its effects to girls. One of the campaigns that was very successful was the Ibua campaign. Some of you might have actually heard it. This we did with the Financial Sector Deepening Trust, together with Fern Marketing, on which we targeted rural and urban youth, both in school and out of school as well. We were able to reach more than 7 million youth. In urban areas, we had debates, we created dramas, we had what we call them story vijueni, whereby we would actually go out in the villages, go out actually in towns, and get the youth to speak on their challenges. And something interesting, in actually rural areas, we had these, we call them mobile video units, where we'd actually take content, in villages, just put it outside, play the content. The good thing about content is actually, first of all, it brings people, right? So we'd play the content and then see the conversation around. It's very fascinating to see what people actually have and how people interact with content. Now, the question is, why content? Why storytelling? The mere facts and data alone don't engage people. When we want to actually make change, we need to think of emotions. So if you think about how do I engage a person, are you thinking about their emotions? How do they connect with that story? Do they attribute themselves with whatever you're talking about? So data by itself and facts isn't enough. And we feel like each one of us is a storyteller. Each one of us can take advantage of storytelling and connect with people. So anytime we actually are doing maybe a social cause, how do we also embed storytelling, embed emotions in actually what we are communicating to people? And I'll share, so we have a campaign called Mjasiria Hali. So Mjasiria Hali is a campaign that targets youth, and in the question on how are they preparing themselves as they are going towards the job market, right? How are youth preparing themselves? So we created a lot of stories. One of it is the Mambo Leo, and I wish actually when I was preparing the deck, I was like, I don't know if I can have time to play the content. So the content is a short film. It's a short film, 5 minutes, but it's aimed at youth on how are they thinking about their preparation as they are going to the job market. Are they thinking themselves as recipients of the jobs, or are they preparing themselves as producing solutions? We have taken this content to urban schools in Dar es Salaam and also into rural areas like Tabora. And it's very fascinating how people start engaging with the content and relating to it. It's so interesting, the questions that these people ask. And we feel like that is the power by itself. Not presenting them with solutions, but leaving them with questions. So what are some of the learnings that we have been immersing ourselves, or what are some of the learnings that we have got over time? Before, when we were doing these campaigns, we were thinking ourselves as heroes. And I'm thinking maybe a lot of us have that we are the experts. We are crafting the content. We are crafting the campaigns. But over and over time, we have learned that that is not the good approach. So how do we approach whatever we do with an attitude of learning? So currently, we are actually working with the Aga Khan Foundation in Lindi and Mtwara on their campaign around school dropouts. The rate actually of dropouts in Lindi and Mtwara is actually high. So one of the things that we have developed over time is really building up solutions, building up content, building up campaigns with people in mind. So we drove all the way to Mtwara and then engaged with people. Actually, where are they? So that was the first question. Where are they? What are people currently engaging with? And it's very fascinating data, as well as if you go to the ground, what it actually says. So when we went to Mtwara, we were asking ourselves, and when we were thinking, like maybe social media, maybe TV, maybe radio, right? But it was very interesting that going there, one of it, social media is almost non-existent, right? Very few people are using it. We say penetration is high, but is it penetration or usage? I think we need to separate that, right? So we found out that most people are using radios. In almost every household, you'll find a radio, right? And this is an opportunity, right? TV is existence, but very select few members. Teachers, community leaders, and we were walking out during the afternoon going around places just to see where are people. So clinics, you'll find a lot of women. Some clinics have TV. And we were asking ourselves, what are they watching when they're there? Do you know what they were watching? Okay, I don't want to say. But interesting, during the night, the villages were quiet. So where actually are the people? People were in these local cinemas. So tonight hapa vibanda umiza. They're watching drama. Illegally, but watching. And we think that this is an opportunity. It's just something that we need to think about. When we're thinking about educational content, we need to think about these. These are actually opportunities maybe we need to think. How do we get our content there? The second question that we ask ourselves is, when they are there, what are they consuming? Are they watching news? Are they watching educational content? I've heard a comment that we need to also think about education. But have you watched the educational content? Would you like to watch them? These are all questions we need to ask ourselves. So when we were in Tuara, we figured out that elders love news. Youth love, especially boys, love sports and entertainment. And I don't want to generalize this. This is very specific to what we are doing. And so I think that even when we are going about doing this campaign, we also need to localize the solutions. Girls were into drama, right? So we're like, how do we take educational content and think around these things that people are already consuming? How do we take advantage of this opportunity, I'll say? We also went to radios and TVs and also talked to them and see the programs that they're having. The interesting programs will be Udaku. This will have the high number. But learning programs are not very interesting. But it's not just that the content is not interesting, even the way we are packaging it. And I think that it's an opportunity we need to think about. The other thing is, who are these people already talking to? Who's talking to them? Most of the time when we actually are embarking in, especially mass campaigns, everyone wants to connect directly to people. Something that we have already realized that it's a very expensive process. When you're trying to build infrastructures, you need to have a very long-term approach. So the thing that we try to do these days is think of who's already talking to the people. Is it a local radio? Is it a local person? Is it a community leader? Do they have people who are there already, community organizations that already actually are engaging with them? And the question is, how do we then partner up? Because you already built up this infrastructure, we don't have to create all over again. So working with community radios, working with local TV stations, working with local influencers, even the dialect sometimes matters. So lastly, just to sum it up, what we have learned is that each individual person, each individual organization by themselves, of course you can do damage. You can do great work, but I think together we'll reach so far. Teaming up with local influencers, teaming up with local radios, teaming up with local organization, not just local, even national as well, working with governments, looking at the current infrastructure, working with content creators who are trying to figure out how they create content that engages people. We need to work together. And that's the only way we can achieve great results. So really looking forward to hearing from you all. Thank you.
You got a woohoo. Ladies and gentlemen, all right, we're going to open the floor for Q&A. Do we have any questions, any comments? We've got a hand that's shot up. Let's see if we can get two directly. So we're going to do this gentleman right here. We're going to come to you, and then we'll come to you. I'm just going to look for the ones who have not asked questions first. If we have none, others, and I'll come to you. All right.
Thank you. My name is Alpha Mbena from Spino Company Limited, founder and managing director. Thank you for your presentation, Brian. It was pretty good. I just have one question. You said something towards the end about trying to incorporate education to what these people, particularly in the rural areas, are consuming. And so I'm curious to know if you have been able to link up with the government to see if there are any policies or guidelines that would help you in this mission of wanting to help these people, or you guys wanting to incorporate education to what these people are consuming. Any insights for that? Thank you.
And I think the last slide, I think to me summarizes it. We need to approach things from a partnership. So let's say currently we are working with the Aga Khan Foundation in Lindi and Mtwara. You can't leave the government behind. And we are not creating curriculums. We are packaging the content, right? Because the curriculum is one thing, how people engages with what you create is a whole other thing. And it's a science and an art. So the people who are already creating curriculums, the government, necessary institutions, it's an opportunity to collaborate with content creators who are them trying to really regurgitate that information and give it to the public. So we are not creating curriculums. I think that maybe is an advantage on our end. So I don't know if I've asked you a question. Yeah.
Thank you very much. This is one of the very interesting presentation. My name is Viva from TASEPA. I'm a consultant, and to be very specific, I'm interested on financial inclusion. I'm a consultant as well on financial digital inclusion. I really picked it very well from your presentation that you mentioned you have reached 7 million youth in countrywide, right? Which means that's more than 10% if you compare to the total census of the last exercise. So I'm just interested to understand from what you did in your program, what has been the impact? And since what you have been doing, you have been also contributing to the National Financial Inclusion Framework under the Bank of Tanzania. So that's very interesting. You can also share your reports of what you have done to the bank in order to be incorporated into what you have been done and contributed to the country and policies. Thank you.
So the campaign, actually, we worked with the Financial Sector Deepening Trust, who are working very closely with BOT. So in what we did, and I think, again, in educational programs, one of the things is also taking advantage of what we are learning elsewhere. We learn that entertainment is great, and people are engaging with it. So how do we take advantage of that? We created dramas. We went out to villages and played it. Some of the learnings were actually taken back to microfinance institutions, banks, and even BOT, actually. So we were actually in collaboration with them. So some of those actually were taken into product developments in financial sectors. Also, even some programs or some products that the MFIs are already creating were actually streamlined back to the people. Because in those dramas, we would actually tell them about maybe like savings of the bank. Have they thought about it? So those are some of the learnings that we actually had. But it would be interesting to maybe even document, write a report on that as well. Thanks.
Good afternoon. My name is Ryan, and I'm currently a manager at Retro Studios, Don't Think. My curiosity is, you said you reached a lot of people, a lot of youths, like 7 million here in Tanzania. But I would like to ask you a question, like, how do you be able to make the content interesting to the other youths? Like, how do we fall in love with the content? Like, what's your plan to make us fall in love with the content?
So I'll answer that question, understanding that content is diverse, and it's just art. It's an art form. And one art form might not be interesting to one person, might be interesting to another person. So it's very important as well when we are actually creating some of these campaigns to embrace diversity. One of the things that we are doing at the organization is realizing that we need so many more people to create good content, right? We need to empower youth, we need to empower you and others to even create better content. Because what you can create, I can't create. So you can talk to some people that I can't even reach. So how do we get content creators partner with subject experts? Because you just creating something out of the bloom is maybe not very, I don't know what's the term, but we need content creators to work with subject experts, to work with regulators, and create a lot of content, a lot of interesting content. You might reach people that we can never reach. And I think that's the beauty. We need to take this, the art, we need to take the campaigns, take it back to the people, work with them, and get as much content as we can. Because as we can see today, everyone is creating content, whether you like it or not. The problem is, the people who are creating content, one of it are not very ethical. The other is, if you look at our social medias right now, there's just a lot of, I don't want to say bad content, but maybe there's work to be done. There's work to be done. So people who are actually targeting the mass, we need to up our game. And we need to create even more engaging content that they might talk to some other people, might talk to some, not other people, and that's okay.
Thank you, Brian. Nuzulak Dawson from North Africa. I'm highly interested in local cinemas, Libanda Umiza. Did you use them for your interventions? If you did, what was the timing of disseminating the content? Because we understand they watch football, movies. Was it before the movie or was it before the match? Would be very interesting for most of us here.
Yeah. So actually, we haven't used them for this particular campaign, but I think what I was actually sharing is it's an opportunity, right? They are actually watching sports. They are actually watching dramas. So it's actually an opportunity for content creation around drama. It's an opportunity maybe to plug in a skit around maybe during breaks time. You might not maybe get people after the match to watch, but maybe what about in between? So I think these are all opportunities that we can actually explore. And pretty much everyone, we should explore this.
Thank you so much for a good presentation, and mine is to just commend you for the work that you're already doing. And as a fellow creative, I really see the potential of not just collaborating, but then continue doing a great work. But then one thing that I wanted to add is when you're creating content, really make sure that you are working with the end users. So in our organization, usually what we do co-design workshops with end users to make sure that like we're creating solutions or the messages tailoring to their basic unique needs, and also like looking at the media, like what kind of media they are really like using, and also like what kind of content, how can we communicate that content in a way that each group that we want to communicate with is understanding the message and getting it, instead of like generalizing it to everybody. So that's why like it's important to collaborate, not just with stakeholders, but the end users themselves.
Okay, thank you all.
A hand of applause to Mr. Brian Nyampi from Studio 19. And I think also that's kind of what you did speak to, Brian, in terms of the need to contextualize, ensure that we're localizing content, but also hyper-localizing. I think it ties in well to that final comment. Ladies and gentlemen, we are moving on swiftly. Now, like you've seen, we have some very, technical, but also content-rich presentations. And following, we have a tech demo. Now this is fun. And the tech demo is going to be led by Ms. Josie Gallo, who is a program manager at PVI, Peripheral Vision International. Makofi kwake tafadhali.
Hi everyone, I think we're going to show a video first. So my name's Josie, I'm program manager at PVI, and let's watch the video about 1G games. I think we're just missing some audio.
Unataka kuweka akiba ili uweze kuchangia katika harusi utakapofika. Kwanza kabisa, unahitaji kununua tiketi ya basi. Twende harusini. Una kiasi kidogo cha pesa taslimu na pesa za kwenye simu, lakini unataka kuweka akiba ili uweze kuchangia katika harusi utakapofika. Kwanza kabisa, unahitaji kununua tiketi ya basi. Unaweza kwenda kwenye ofisi ya tiketi, au umekuwa ukiona kwenye mitandao ya kijamii kwamba mtu fulani anauza tiketi kupitia WhatsApp na kusema basi lao linakwenda haraka zaidi. Unanunua tiketi ya basi kutokea wapi? Kwenye ofisi ya tiketi au kutoka kwa mtu kupitia WhatsApp? Ili kununua kutoka kwenye ofisi ya tiketi, bonyeza 1. Ili kununua kutoka kwa mtu kupitia WhatsApp, bonyeza 3. Hilo sio jibu sahihi. Unapaswa kulipia vitu kama usafiri kutoka kwa mhudumu anayeaminika. Usikate tiketi au kujiandikisha kwa safari kupitia kwa mtoa huduma asiye rasmi, kwani hii inaweza kuwa utapeli. Ulinunua tiketi yako ya basi kutoka kwa mtu kupitia WhatsApp, lakini ulipokwenda kupanda basi halikuwepo. Umetapeliwa na sasa huna pesa za kutosha kununua tiketi nyingine. Hebu sikiliza nini kingetokea kama ungekuwa umenunua tiketi yako ya basi kutoka kwenye ofisi ya tiketi. Vizuri sana. Hilo ni jibu sahihi. Unapaswa kulipia vitu kama usafiri kutoka kwa mhudumu anayeaminika. Usikate tiketi au kujiandikisha kwa safari kupitia kwa mtoa huduma asiye rasmi, kwani hii inaweza kuwa utapeli. Ulienda kwenye ofisi ya tiketi na wana promosheni. Umepata punguzo la 10% kwenye tiketi yako. Hivyo sasa, una pesa zaidi za kupeleka harusini. Sasa, endelea na safari.
Okay, thanks very much, and there should be some slides loaded as well. Thank you. So it's a tech demo, but it's not very technical. It's just using a phone like this, which you might still have, or you might have had as your very first mobile phone. So yeah, I'm going to be telling you today about 1G games. If we can just load the slides. Okay, so what is 1G games? So 1G is a choose-your-own-adventure style audio game. Using interactive voice response or IVR technology. So much like when you phone your bank and you're given a menu of options to choose from, this is an audio narrative where you're actually using your phone's keypad to choose what the character does next in the game. So 1G Games reinforces learning through the use of drama, storytelling, and engaging dialogue and sound effects. And so far we've written dozens of games on topics such as malaria, sexual health, farming, vaccines, human rights, fair employment, and digital fraud. We're proud that 1G was a winner of MIT Solve, and we've received press coverage worldwide. So to deliver these games to our audience, we work with our technical partner Viamo, who some of you may know. They provide information services for free by partnering with mobile network operators. So in Tanzania, we're actually working with Vodacom to bring this content to users for free. So some of the benefits of 1G. So first of all, like I said, it's free to access. So people can access it via a toll-free number. In Tanzania specifically, you get 5 free calls a month, and then it's a low rate charge for any further calls, and then your free calls reset the following month. The use of audio means that it doesn't require literacy skills. As we've heard today, this digital divide, we're trying to bridge that. So this is suitable for rural audiences. Also, it can be played on the basic mobile phone. As you see on the slide here, 43% of the African population doesn't have access to a smartphone, so they might be using something like this. Which doesn't, require much to charge. These things last for a long time. You can use them in rural areas. So this initiative is really helping to bridge the digital divide. And players can access it in their own time. So it's self-paced learning, which can be particularly useful for sensitive subjects such as HIV. The content's available in local languages. As you heard in Tanzania, the content is available in Swahili. In other countries, such as Uganda, players can actually choose from 6 different languages. So depending on their preference, they can learn in Luganda or other languages. It's also a useful tool for targeting misinformation and disinformation. As I've mentioned, we've used it for things around vaccines, employment scams, digital fraud. So it's a great tool for tackling misinfo and disinfo. It's engaging and fun. So we use a variety of characters and stories to bring messaging to life, and a variety of the decision points to test the player's knowledge. And we can write games in a variety of formats. So for example, some clients want a simple quiz to use as part of their training program, and some clients want a more complex narrative format to reinforce behavior change messaging. So how many people have we reached with 1G games so far? So since we launched in 2017, we've reached over 8 million callers in more than 20 different countries. So we've written around 70 games, and on average, each game reaches 125,000 callers, and the majority of those projects are within sub-Saharan Africa. So I'm going to talk a bit more about the process of creating a 1G game. So first of all, we receive an intake form from the client, and this intake form is something that we designed as a project brief that gives us all the information we need to write the game. So this includes the target audience, so the age, gender, where they live, and their economic status, and also the kind of places that they might socialize, the kind of jobs that they might do. We also ask for information about what they value and aspire to, and which sources of information or members of society that they trust or mistrust. So that might be religious leaders, traditional media. Most importantly, we work with the partner to develop scenarios that act as learning points in the game. So for example, we want to see fishermen using malaria nets to actually sleep under instead of using them for fishing. And then once we have all this information, we think about the stories and characters that will deliver this messaging in an engaging and interactive way, and also an authentic way to make sure that it meets the needs of that context. So we then create a game map, like the one that you can see on the slide here, that maps out the decisions that the player can make during the game. So often these games, as you see, have multiple branches, giving players a unique experience each time they play. And we found that quite often users like to phone back and make the wrong decision and actually see what happens if they make the wrong choice. So once we've signed off the game map, we then write a dialogue script that brings the content to life, and this includes the conversations between characters, music, and sound effects. Once the client has reviewed the content and it's signed off, our technical partner Viamo translates into the languages that are required by that country, and then records the audio. And then the game is then launched, and then often it's promoted through the use of targeted SMS messages and highlighted as part of the mobile network operator's information service. So when you phone up, you'll be told about what new content is available on the platform. So this new game, which you heard a short clip from, is called Safari ya Singida, or the Singida Trail game, and it's actually a special commission for GEC here in Tanzania. So we were tasked to create a game where the player went on a journey with a number of obstacles along the way. So we're largely looking at misinformation and disinformation. So we designed the game so that the players traveling to Singida for a family wedding, they have a small amount of money on them, and they ideally will arrive at the wedding and be able to make contributions and provide gifts. And so some of the obstacles that are within the game that the player faces, we have, as you heard, the bus ticket, where you should buy your bus ticket from. You get approached about business opportunities, which are actually scams. There's things around quick loan schemes and mobile phone scams and your digital safety, so not sharing your mobile money PIN. Accessing health information and where to access health services. And then misinformation on social media and WhatsApp groups. So if someone has posted something on Facebook or someone has shared something in a WhatsApp group, do you validate that information? Do you share it with others? And similarly, checking news sources. So if an item has been shared to an external link, is that link valid? Is it a news source that you recognize? So if the player makes the right choices, they're rewarded with gifts to take to the wedding, such as fruits and sodas. And if they make the wrong choices, they run out of money and they can't make it to the wedding. So the game has multiple pathways so that players can actually try again and make different choices. And we just launched yesterday, actually, and there's some postcards around with information on how to access the game. The game itself includes characters, dialogue, music, sound effects to keep it engaging and entertaining. In each decision, there's a message to reinforce the learning point. So for example, if you've made the wrong decision around sharing your mobile money PIN, you'll be reminded and reinforced what you should do in that situation and not to share your financial details. And I just wanted to include some of the other partners that have used 1G Games as part of their programs. As you can see, it's a range of clients from both government agencies and NGOs. And for UN agencies such as UNICEF and UNFPA, we've produced games on COVID vaccines and gender-based violence. And the NGO BRAC, we actually work to adapt their curriculum for adolescent girls into multiple games to create a kind of virtual world covering topics including sexual health, mental well-being, and career planning. So just quickly, some of the impact that we've made with 1G includes increases in knowledge and attitude change around gender roles in Uganda, which was more effective than other content formats. So we tested the same messaging around gender roles, particularly during pregnancy and around family planning, as static content and gamified content, and the gamified content was more effective. And similarly, in Cambodia, those who played a 1G game, which was on career planning, showed higher perceived self-efficacy, response efficacy, and behavioral intention than those who accessed the same information as non-gamified content. And then finally, in Madagascar, 25% of farmers who played a 1G game about adapting to climate change then registered to receive more information on climate insurance. So it can also be a useful tool for getting people to enroll in services. I'm happy to share any of these reports afterwards if anyone's interested. So thank you very much. I'm very happy to answer any questions. I'll also be here for the rest of the day. Happy to answer any questions about PVI and 1G. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Josie. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to insist that during the break, you can approach Josie and ask questions directly about the program, well, the product, about PVI, about 1G Games, and all that you do. Asante sana, Josie. Josie, I had a woo. Talk about innovations, reaching people with limited media access, digital literacy. So that's a definite game changer in many African countries, as well as in different in the southern hemisphere. So to everybody online and to everybody here, we have come to that point where we succumb and confess that our stomachs are also communicating. And so we're moving on swiftly to lunch. We're going to be heading downstairs. Lunch is going to be served on the ground floor. I do believe that you all were given coupons when you're coming in. If you do not have a coupon, please do put your hand up so the team would know where you are and make sure that you're handed a coupon. Okay, we have a few gentlemen here who does not have a coupon. Anybody else? All right, we have a gentleman here who does not have a coupon. We'll get one to you, sir. We are heading for lunch. It is now 12:55. We're aiming to be back in this room ready to begin at 1:40. It is 12:55. We're aiming to be back in this room ready to begin at 1:40. So if you do see me coming over to your lunch table at exactly 1:30 asking you to come back upstairs, understand that we want to make sure that we're keeping with time. All right. This is also where you network, connect, go and powder your noses, do what you need to do. Remember, for everything that you're posting, the hashtag is USTZ Tech. Bon appetit. Enjoy chakula cha mchana. Karibu chakula cha mchana. The only way we are able to go back to get downstairs and back here on time is if we all get up on our feet and start heading there now. We have 2 lifts. And so getting downstairs will take a little bit of time. So let's engage in the lifts. And I'm going to keep speaking and bothering you with my voice until this room is empty so that we can be back here and ready to begin at 1:40. Farhan, thank you so much for showing great leadership. Brian, thank you so much for engaging with Doris and Lillian Sechelela Madeje. And Asha, thank you so much for getting up and heading outside so that we can be back on time. Thank you so much for showing great leadership in the ecosystem. Asanteni sana. We shall keep engaging as we go outside. Let's keep dwindling outside so we can. For those who are fit or your fitness goals, you did not reach your your steps, your target with the steps, please feel free to take the stairs downstairs. We're only on the 6th floor. The stairs are also very, they're also very, very welcoming. Let's head downstairs. Let's head downstairs. We're back here at 1:40. To the team of ushers, please, let's help make sure that where people are heading downstairs. I will keep speaking. Feel free to keep listening to my beautiful voice. Nisha, thank you so much for heading out and ensuring that we are doing what needs to be done to get back here at 1:40. Brian, thank you so much for literally leading the way, just as you do with your social behavioral change communication campaigns and making sure. Please speak with people as you head outside. Thank you so very much.